Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're doing good today. Well, today I'm going to do a garden overview or a garden tour. A viewer asked me to do this, and I've never done one of these before. So I'm going to show you my whole garden, and then I'm going to go through it and show you a few things like why I weed, how I weed a certain way, trellising tomatoes, things like that. I'm going to show you some of the good things, and I'm going to show you some bad things, and just everything that's going on in my garden. Now, I'm probably going to make this a two-part because to do it all in one, for me, it would be a really long video. So let me show you what my garden is. Okay, so it starts back there, and this might be hard to see, but I've got 2 rows of tomatoes by them hay bales, and then I've got some potatoes here, and then that is my asparagus, and then down here you can see this is a row of, these are Boston pickling cucumbers for canning, and then I've got 3 rows of pole beans. I've got a row of tomatoes, 2 rows of corn, and then there should be corn there. That's for later. And then over there is my zucchini. And then all the way in the back, and it's going to be hard to see from here, but that's where I planted the, most of my pumpkins. And then you can kind of see back here, those are all my fruit trees. I've got apples, pears, and peaches. And 1 cherry right over there. So I'm going to start you on this end, and we're just going to work our way down. Okay, so what you just saw there, the dimensions of that, my garden is 130 foot long, and the rows are about 40 foot long. Now, back where I have my pumpkins this year, I added that on a few years ago, and it's, I think, about a 25 by 25 area. Now, like probably everybody that's going to watch this video, I do have a daytime job, and I'm a union pipe fitter, and I work about an hour and 10 minutes away from home. So in the spring and the fall especially, there's times when I get home from work, I just can't get everything done that I want to get done before it gets dark. So when I talk about weeding or lack of weeding, I've kind of changed the way I do things, the way I think more than anything, to kind of adapt to that lack of time. So let me know what you think. I think it works pretty good in this clay soil. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the first mistake that I made of this spring, and it was when I planted my zucchini. Now, my zucchini, they look really good. I've been getting quite a few zucchini off of them. I've got a big one here that this one's probably going to go to the animals because it's just too big to do anything else with. But when you come over here, we go from zucchini to a pumpkin. And I planted actually 2 pumpkins when it should have been zucchini. Now I've already got a couple of pumpkins on there. I think you can see this one here. So the containers were labeled right. I just grabbed the wrong ones. It's not a big deal. By the time I figured it out a couple days later, because I just got in a big hurry. I wasn't going to, dig them back up and try and replant them or anything like that. The only thing that I can see that it might come bad out of this is I won't be able to save any of the seeds, because if they do happen to cross-pollinate, they won't grow true to their parents. But this year, it's not going to affect the taste of the zucchini or the pumpkins if they do cross-pollinate. So that's really kind of the only downside to it. Now, if you take a look, you see there's a lot of grass in between these plants. And where I planted my zucchini, I tried to mulch that, and it keeps the weeds down pretty good. But I don't till it. And I'm going to show you a better example of this here in just a second. But if I tried to till this, if I tried to keep it just perfectly weed free, it takes too much time. And I have a high tolerance for weeds. And so because of my clay soil, I just come out here with a weed eater, and my soil's not uncovered. The sun doesn't bake it. I'm actually adding a lot of organic matter into my soil by, just, trimming them down with a weed eater, and then they decompose down. The worms come up and eat them. And so it's actually, a soil amendment all year long. And so I'll show you over here a little bit more of what I'm talking about. Now right here, I've got some straight 8, that's a slicing cucumber. And they came up, they're kind of spotty, and I got them in late, but they're doing okay. And so far, I got to get the trellis up for them, which I need to do that in the next day or two, because I don't want the roots getting, spread out real far before I get that done. But I'm going to have more than enough, even with the ones that didn't. I think they're going to be okay, and I love a good slicing cucumber. Now, this here, I made a video on this, and I had actually used a cover crop where I planted my corn, and I was going to try to, leave some between the rows, not till everything up. And again, it was going to keep that soil from getting baked, but I was going to try to mow it and use that as feed for the animals, and that didn't quite work out like I thought it would. But you can see I got a couple decent rows of corn, and I planted these before I planted anything else. And you can see here, there's a lot where I just hit this with a weed eater, and then you got corn plants there. They're starting to come up. But one of the things, and this really, really did work out good, and I didn't realize it at the time, there is almost no weeds in these rows. They look kind of rough because I just weed eated them here a little bit ago, so you can't tell. But where I planted the corn, there's actually hardly any weeds, and I believe it was because that cover crop choked them all out in the spring. I planted it in the fall. So that part there, that's going to be weed free, I think. I would have already had weeds by now. So I want to show you my tomatoes. And okay, so what I planted this year were old Germans, and I have some Amish paste over there, and also some old Germans over there. But what I'm going to show you today, this is just a row of old Germans, and they are doing really good. I've got a video on how I planted them. If you go to my playlist, it'll be in there. I actually have several videos of planting them, but this year here, they have come out great. Last year, it was kind of an experiment. I tried something different. I didn't know if it was going to work, but this year, just super. Now, old Germans, they're beefsteak. They're a bigger tomato, and they are just looking really good. I'm getting a lot of tomatoes on right now, and these can get up to over a pound. And so every plant, they're just doing good. So I don't really eat tomatoes. I use them for canning. I make salsa, but I haven't found a tomato that I like yet. So I've got high hopes that these old Germans, maybe they'll turn out to be the ones that I like. Now, how I trellis my tomatoes, I'm actually probably do it a little different than other people, because I was on a job a couple years ago, 2 of them actually, where they used, and I'll try and show you here. This is like a bungee cord right here. And then it's got a little hook, and when they don't cut them, they'll have a handle on them like this. And when they make tents on scaffold and stuff for welders, they'll use these, but they just throw them away when they're done. So I would get them out of the trash, and I collected a bunch of them over a couple years. And so this is kind of how you do it. You just hook it in there, and you hook that, and then you can tighten this up. This part here, you can tighten it up. But that makes this, it's hard to see with all the leaves, but that makes your plant kind of just free floating and it doesn't restrict it. And then if you have to, you can move it back and forth. And so if your plant starts leaning one way or the other, you can adjust it. And what I do is I just take a 7-foot T-post, and then I run, this is just baling twine. Now it is UV resistant, so it does stay good out in the sun, but that's how I trellis them. And I should have probably, the spacing down here was good, and then I kind of shouldn't have went as wide right here. That's one thing about using baling twine. You really want to, you know, keep them tight together because it will sag. So, and I believe I have 4 posts, so that's a post about every 10 feet. You might want to go more than that if you got something heavy, but so far it's worked good. Okay, so now we're at the pole beans, and I had to replant my pole beans this year. Some of them come up, but a lot of them didn't. And so some of them look really good. Some of them are just starting to take off. But you can see these 3 rows right here. You got some down here. They're going to take off, and they need weeded. That's probably something that I'll get done by this weekend. But pole beans, you get a lot longer growing season with a pole bean. Now, everything that I grow, usually I have in mind either canning or feeding to the animals. So with a bush bean, once you pick them a couple times, they kind of start getting woody. They don't taste near as good. But with a pole bean, you're going to get a harvest all the way until the first frost. And so what I don't use, it goes out to the pigs and the chickens. So I don't waste anything as far as any type of vegetable in my garden, actually. But this is what I want to show you about my weeding method. Now, again, this garden, it probably isn't the prettiest thing in the world, but when you have clay soil, you're always thinking about something to amend it, to make it better. And if I just tilled between these rows and I hand weeded, which I got to do it, but I do hand weed around the beans, again, that sun is going to hit that soil. There's nothing there for the worms to eat, and you actually don't do your soil a lot of favors, I guess, by tilling it constantly to get rid of the weeds. And so I'll say it again, I have a high tolerance for weeds. So what I've done here is I've tried to hand weed down here around the bottom, and once these grow up, they're going to shade a lot of those weeds out. But take a look. This is all just organic matter it's going to decompose down, and there's going to be something here for the worms to eat. You know, like I say, and it's going to help prevent weeds from coming up because it's going to shade them out. So I trim them, I leave them right in the garden. The one thing that I don't want to do, and sometimes it happens, is I just don't want to let anything go to seed. You know, any weeds, I try, and I see some right here that have gone to seed, but I try to keep that down. So it should help keep more weeds out of my garden for next year. Well, the last thing that I'm going to show you, and I did a video on these, and these are my canning cucumbers, my Boston pickling, and they're an heirloom, and they're doing real good. Again, I had to replant them. Some of them came up good, some didn't, and so they start right here, and they're all doing really good. And I made a video on, I used some steep rabbit manure, and these 2 plants here are actually the ones that I made in that, or I put that on in the video. So you can see they're doing really good. And again, I can't overplant because I feed anything that I don't use. I feed them to the animals or I give them away. So And I think I seen the other day, I don't know if I'll find one or not, but I did have some little cucumbers on here. So, so far, the cucumbers, they've done great. You know, one 40-foot row is going to be way more than what I'll need to can with to make pickles. And I'll usually, like I say, give some away. So that's about half of my garden, and I'll save the rest for another video. But let me know what you think, and if you want to see how this stuff comes out, you know, see, you know, how the pumpkins over there that I planted in the wrong spot, consider subscribing. It is free. You don't have to pay nothing, and you know, I really would appreciate it. And so I hope you enjoyed the video, and you know, let me know what you think, especially about the weeding. Well, you guys have a good day. I'll talk to you later. See ya.